Hi, my name is Victoria Collier. This is my final project experiment for the Earth Science class. The title of my project is Wind Anemometer. What I decided to do was create this wind anemometer because I wanted to see how wind changed throughout the day. More specifically, I wanted to know if it was more windy during the evening, afternoon, or morning. I already had more of a personal opinion, and I know that that's definitely subjective, but I felt that it would be more windy during the evening. Just from personal experience, I usually go on walks every morning, and I find that I would rather walk in the morning because I feel like it's not as cold as it is if I were to go walking in the evening. And I just wanted to know if this was due in part because of the wind factor or not. So that's why I created my own personal homemade wind anemometer. I know that typically an anemometer is used to find the wind speed, and I wasn't really concerned with the speed of the wind because that would be really difficult to try and calculate off of something homemade. So I just wanted to count how much wind there was in a period of time that was at least strong enough to give a full rotation of my anemometer. So the wind would blow, it would blow into this cup and then make it spin. And I only counted each full rotation. What I did was I wanted to make the anemometer so that I could get a visual, because I didn't want to just stand there counting the wind blowing because that's not very accurate. So I just counted the wind that was strong enough to make the anemometer go into a full rotation. I made this by taking 5 of these 2-ounce cups. I made a hole on each side so that I could stick a straw through. And if you see, these two are connected to each other and these two are connected to each other. And then I also have them crossed in the middle, and they're connected by just a little part of a paper clip. And then I stuck it into the eraser of the pencil, so that way it would stick, but that it would still move as the wind blew it. And the pencil, I decided to have it sharpened, so that way when I put it into the ground in my backyard, it would go into the soil easier, rather than if it were just a flat pencil. I placed this just in the middle of my backyard because I do have some trees, but I didn't have any trees near the middle. I just had them more on the perimeter of my backyard. And when I was calculating my data, I broke up each day into 3 different time periods. The morning time period was between 8 and 10 a.m. The afternoon time period was between 1 and 3 p.m. And the evening time period was between 6 and 8 p.m. And I did this over a course of 3 days, so that way I could get better results after finding the average. And the 3 days I did this on was December 10th, 11th, and 12th. I felt that, again, the morning would be one of the least amount of wind average, and after I collected all my data, I found that my hypothesis was incorrect. It turns out that over the course of the 3 days I did the experiment and collected the data, that in the morning, the average amount of times between 8 and 10 a.m. that I would count full rotations of my anemometer, I had an average of 2.9 full rotations in a minute during those 3 hours. And I'm sorry, those 2 hours. And during the afternoon time, the average was 2.5 rotations, and the evening had the least amount of rotations at 2.3. So the evening actually had the least amount total full rotations out of the 3 time periods that I was testing, so my hypothesis was wrong. I felt that there were a few things that could have made this experiment more accurate, or at least easier to do. For example, I think that if this apparatus were made to a larger scale, that would have given me better results, because although it still would make rotations, there would be some times where it wouldn't move at all and I would be outside and I could feel the wind blowing. So it would have to be a stronger gust of wind in order to make this actually move. So I think that if I were to do this experiment again, instead of using this small pencil, I would use maybe a meter stick or something that was taller. So that way it wouldn't be affected by possibly my fence. Even though it was so far away from my anemometer, it still could have affected the way that the wind was blowing in, maybe had to move down, and that's why I could feel it blowing from up here, but this being all the way at the ground, I couldn't feel it as much, or this couldn't feel it as much. Maybe instead of using these small 2-ounce cups, I could have used the 16-ounce solo cups, and that would have maybe caught more wind so that it would have a greater effect when wind would blow. So I think that was probably one of the biggest things that affected my results. I know that this also isn't very accurate because it is based on my subjective opinion. At least my hypothesis was, but I still feel that this overall was a good indicator of how much wind there was during the day for at least the 3 days that I had collected the data.